Every summer, San Diego becomes the center of the pop culture universe. Hundreds of thousands of fans from around the world fill the convention center, pack the Gaslamp Quarter, and turn downtown into a celebration of comics, movies, television, gaming, and cosplay. Today, Comic-Con is one of the biggest events of its kind anywhere. But long before the blockbusters, the celebrities, and the crowds, it all began with a love of stories.
Well, I'd say it's a window to the future. You open it and you jump ahead 50 or 100 or 1,000 years. When I was a kid, it took me to the moon and Mars.
Tonight, we look back at how a small gathering of comic book fans grew into a global phenomenon and why its story is forever tied to San Diego. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Anna Laurel. Today, Comic-Con fills an entire convention center and spills into the streets of downtown San Diego. But more than 5 decades ago, there were no blockbuster movie panels, no Hollywood studios, and no miles-long lines. To understand how Comic-Con became one of the biggest pop culture events in the world, you have to go back to where it all began. It started in 1970 when a handful of comic book fans gathered in the basement of the U.S. Grand Hotel. That small convention would soon grow into a San Diego tradition and eventually a global phenomenon.
This year's conclave has a little of everything to offer, with discussions and exhibits focusing on comic books, comic strips, science fiction, fantasy, and the age of chivalry. Guest speaker for the 3-day event is former San Diegan Bob Clampett, creator of the popular cartoon characters Bugs Bunny, Tweety Pie, and Cecil the Seasick Sea Serpent. Clampett explained the sources of inspiration for those characters.
What about the idea for Tweety Pie?
Well, actually, the design of Tweety was, I had a baby picture my mother had up when I was a child of me in the nude with big blue eyes, the little cheeks, and nothing on. I always hated that, and so when I designed Tweety the first time, it was actually a satire on my own baby picture.
Clampett and other noted cartoonists will be taking part in discussions and lectures through Sunday. Cartoon and science fiction movies will also be shown.
The San Diego convention opened yesterday, and already it's in high gear. Shel Dorf, founder of the local get-together of comic book buffs, says this week may break all attendance records. Superheroes are everywhere, but so are customers. And that's one major reason for the convention: share and share alike, for a profit, of course. If a 1946 issue of Donald Duck in fine condition can bring $150, it's only natural that the first Donald Duck comic, drawn by artist Carl Bark in 1942, would go for just $850.
The convention offers many enthusiasts the chance to buy vintage comic books. Those that appeared first back in the late 30s are considered from the Golden Age. They command prices from $100 to several $1,000s. It's incredible since they only cost 10 cents before 1961. Convention organizers agree that science fiction has given comics a shot in the arm, and Star Wars made moviegoers stop to buy comics of the same name. But it's the fun of real space characters and toy ones that captures the imagination of all ages. With remote control in hand, you too can beep your way into a war on a distant planet and be home in time for dinner.
Talk about a way to escape reality for a while. The annual comic convention offered plenty of out-of-this-world excitement, including far-out comic books, souvenirs, and even futuristic-looking Star Wars computer games. Many were there just to expand their comic book collections, while others were there just to gaze at the galaxy of characters on hand. Yes, fans, a full-blown invasion of wild creatures has arrived at the community concourse for the annual comic convention. And you're right, sponsors tell us this year's convention is bigger and better than ever. For lovers of comic books, movie posters, and other assorted pieces of trivia, this is paradise.
In those early years, comic books were the main attraction. Collectors packed the convention floor, searching for rare issues, fan favorites, and the next big find. As demand grew, so did prices, and some buyers were willing to spend thousands of dollars on a single comic.
What's the most you've ever paid for a comic book?
I paid $1,801.
What was that?
That was for Action Comics 1, the most valuable comic in the world.
Okay, so here's some perspective. The $800 paid for that copy of Action Comics #1 in 1973 would be about $13,000 today. Well, more than 50 years later, Action Comics #1 remains the holy grail of comic collecting. A high-grade copy recently sold for $15 million, making it the most expensive comic book ever sold. Year after year, more fans kept coming. What started as a small gathering of comic book enthusiasts was rapidly outgrowing each new home. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, organizers kept moving to larger venues to keep pace with the growing crowds. Eventually, even the larger venues couldn't keep up. The next chapter in Comic-Con's history would start with a move to San Diego's new Waterfront Convention Center. The bigger building didn't just create more room for fans, it created room for Comic-Con to evolve from a comic book convention into a pop culture phenomenon.
No, officer, you're not mistaken. I am Captain America.
Sure, there are lots of comics and comic collectors at the comic convention, but you also find a collection of comic characters in every aisle.
Look at these prices. Is it possible? I think not.
And you might just overhear a conversation like this one.
Polanski, his wife.
Well, Polanski shot it, but I mean...
He's in it too.
Oh, he's the old man.
He's the hunchback. He's the hunchback.
He's the hunchback.
Right.
That's Roman Polanski.
Well, who played the guy...
Ferdy Mayne, the same guy that's in House That Dripped Blood.
Comics aren't the only collectibles here either. Old horror and monster movie videos and memorabilia are the most valuable stuff now.
Well, see, these were bought by kids in the 60s, and, you know, they weren't really experienced painters.
So that's not really an albino Frankenstein.
No, that's just the way the kid did it.
All of the stuff that my mother made me throw away or wouldn't let me have in the first place would be really valuable now?
That's right. That's correct. You bet.
They just don't make comics like these anymore. Great stuff to show the kids.
Britano Haleen is here for the comics, though.
This is the first time I've come to a comic book convention, and I've been like collecting in the closet, you know, just whenever I would run into stuff. But now, all in one spot, it's a little overwhelming. I really love it.
And like father, like son.
Cool.
Way cool.
Yeah.
Few collectors can afford or even want the $40,000 rarities. Most of them just love comics.
I love reading comic books because they keep you young, they keep you with a sense of wonder about the world. And nowadays, we need that more than ever before.
Do you remember that practical joker from the fifth dimension that gave Superman so much trouble, Mr. Mixius Pidlick? Well, Superman had to trick him into saying his name backwards to get rid of him. Saunders backwards is Srednows. Well, it worked. Chris Saunders, News 8, the Fifth Dimension.
Comic-Con may have started with comic books, but as it grew, so did its reach. Major movie studios, television networks, and video game companies started using San Diego to debut their biggest projects. Star-studded panels, exclusive first looks, and surprise celebrity appearances helped turn Comic-Con into a global destination. For many fans, seeing their favorite stars became just as exciting as the comics that brought them here. Thousands waited for hours, hoping to land a seat inside one of the convention's most sought-after panels.
You've been waiting in line since what time?
About 8:30 this morning.
8:30 this morning?
Yes.
Who do you really want to see?
Angelina Jolie.
I already met my childhood hero. It is Greg, who played Uncle Iroh, and also Aku.
Whether they scored a seat inside or just a glimpse of a celebrity, for many fans, the chase has become part of the Comic-Con experience. Comic-Con's growth didn't just change what fans could see, it changed how hard it became to get through the doors. When the first convention was held in 1970, a badge cost just $3.50. By the 2010s, badge prices passed the $100 mark. Today, a 4-day badge with preview night costs nearly $400. That's if you can get one. Badges are now sold through a randomized online registration system, and they can sell out in just hours, leaving thousands of fans empty-handed every year. Comic-Con had found a bigger home, but its biggest transformation was only beginning. After the break, homemade capes to Hollywood quality creations. See how cosplay evolved into one of Comic-Con's biggest traditions. Comic-Con is no longer confined to four walls. We'll show you how the celebration spread across downtown San Diego. For many fans, Comic-Con isn't just about who you meet, it's about who you become. Just take a look at how far it's come. What started as a handful of fans dressing as their favorite characters has grown into one of Comic-Con's defining traditions, and for many, an art form. Today, many cosplayers spend months, sometimes even a year, designing, building, and perfecting their creations. Each year, the costumes become more detailed, more creative, and more ambitious.
Cosplayers, costumes, and creativity. It can be all seen at this year's Comic-Con.
You shall not pass!
I've always really loved Padme, Queen Amidala. She's just a very inspiring character, and of course her costumes are beautiful. It was a long process of finding materials and putting it all together, making patterns and all of that fun stuff.
Wow, is the headpiece heavy?
No, it's actually a lightweight foam.
Many Comic-Con fanatics I spoke to have been putting together their costume for months.
Yeah, so I've been working on mine since about January. So it's pretty much a ton of planning and research and just making sure to capture every tiny little detail.
It took about 8 months for mine. A lot of help from a lot of the community out there from Star Wars.
From superheroes to Spider-Man, Star Wars, from big to small and more. They are enjoying every minute.
Just the atmosphere, everyone coming together and celebrating what they love. And I mean, you can't get this anywhere else.
For many fans, there's one destination that defines the Comic-Con experience. Hall H has become the convention's most famous stage, where major studios unveil new movies, debut exclusive footage, and bring some of Hollywood's biggest stars face to face with their most passionate fans. The chance to be inside is so coveted, some attendees camp out overnight or longer just to secure a seat. Over the years, waiting for Hall H has become a tradition of its own. Fans come prepared with camp chairs, sleeping bags, and blankets, taking turns holding their place in line. For them, the hours of waiting are simply part of the experience. Well, not every Comic-Con experience requires a badge. As demand grew, the celebration expanded far beyond the walls of the convention center. Today, downtown San Diego comes alive with free activations from Hollywood's biggest studios, immersive experiences, interactive exhibits, live entertainment, photo ops, and larger-than-life displays. From Petco Park to the Gaslamp Quarter, entire city blocks become part of the Comic-Con experience. For many visitors, some of the convention's biggest moments happen without ever stepping inside the convention center. Comic-Con no longer stops at the convention center. One of its most recognizable traditions now stretches across the downtown skyline as massive building wraps turn hotels and high-rises into giant billboards for Hollywood's biggest movies and television shows. They've become as much a part of Comic-Con as the costumes, even if they're technically not allowed under city rules. Well,
vibrant, iconic, and eye-catching wrap ads are drawing eyes to buildings around the San Diego Convention Center.
It's awesome. I wish they would keep it. Yeah, wrong.
Oh my God, I think they're fantastic.
These massive displays announcing new seasons of shows like The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, and releases like Alien Earth. For some, these wraps are a key part of the Comic-Con experience. This is Dr. Hassan Altman's 30th year attending Comic-Con.
I actually love the wraps. It showed me when new movies are coming out, new TV shows. I remember one year when Game of Thrones was down here, and they had everything on there, and I watched all the seasons of Game of Thrones. My friends and my colleagues were going through our master's degree program before I got my PhD, and we watched Game of Thrones together because of those wraps.
But these wrap ads could come at a steep cost and fines for the property owners. The city of San Diego says that since 2019, the city's Building and Land Use Enforcement Division, or BLUE, has enforced Comic-Con signage using administrative citations. The penalties are up to $1,000 a day. They say BLUE will enforce unpermitted signage during this year's Comic-Con, including building wraps.
Comic-Con brings everybody to San Diego. Comic-Con brings a ton of money. Comic-Con is very popular for San Diego, so the city needs to really chill and work on rent control.
For Altman, the wraps are a way to serve its purpose in spotlighting upcoming TV and movie releases.
And so these wraps give people opportunity to see movies and TV shows and to hear about them if you can't even get into the shows over there and stuff.
Comic-Con isn't just big for fans, it's big business. Coming up, we look at the massive impact the convention has on San Diego's economy and why the city fought to keep it here. For more than 5 decades, Comic-Con has grown alongside San Diego. What started as a small gathering of comic book fans is now one of the region's biggest economic engines. Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors fill hotels, pack restaurants, support local businesses, and generate hundreds of millions of dollars for the local economy. Its impact now extends far beyond the convention floor.
Comic-Con is all about fun, make-believe, and costume play. The effect it has on San Diego's economy is no joke. Just ask Princess Bubblegum.
I think that it brings in so much money to downtown. It brings in like 2 Super Bowls worth of money.
And according to the San Diego Tourism Authority, Comic-Con attendees are expected to directly spend an estimated $88 million this year.
I understand why people love San Diego for sure.
Among those parting with their hard-earned green, Alan and Deanna Johnson from Atlanta.
By the time you pay for airfare, hotels, whatever expenditures on meals, the stuff you buy, it's probably $5,000 easy.
In fact, tourism officials estimate San Diego generates $3 million in hotel and sales tax revenues from Comic-Con, and that includes eating out.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited with this Comic-Con. I think it's a little different. There's a little more energy.
Including at Toscana's in the Gas Lamp, where they've tripled their staffing through Comic-Con and are hoping their profits multiply as well, at least compared to last year, says owner Sean Shoja.
It was a little disappointing, but this year we started off really well.
And while Comic-Con is a moneymaker for San Diego, it can also be a moneymaker for con attendees as well.
Came down here to flip.
Sean Wright from LA is buying as much merch as he can get his hands on, then reselling it online.
Spent probably like $2,000 today, but I made probably $6,000.
As for the future of Comic-Con, Princess Bubblegum has a request.
Please keep it here. Like as a San Diegan, I'm just like, please keep money coming.
Comic-Con has become so important to San Diego, there was a time the city faced the possibility of losing it. After more than 5 decades downtown, other cities expressed interest in luring the convention away, threatening an event that generates hundreds of millions of dollars for the local economy and has become part of San Diego's identity.
The convention center and the city cannot fall asleep on this one, because if we lose this one, that's a major blow to San Diego's reputation as one of the leading convention locations all up and down the West Coast.
Ultimately, Comic-Con stayed in San Diego, a victory for the city, its businesses and fans who called it home for more than half a century. Coming up, Comic-Con may last only a few days every year, but its legacy lives on. We hear from one of the men who helped turn a small gathering of comic book fans into a global phenomenon. While Comic-Con may only take over San Diego for a few days every year, its history lives on year-round. The Comic-Con Museum in Balboa Park preserves the characters, artwork, creativity, and history that have shaped more than 5 decades of the convention. His visitors can explore exhibits celebrating comic books, science fiction film, television, anime, gaming, and cosplay, along with the artists, writers, and fans who helped build Comic-Con into a global phenomenon. It's a year-round reminder that Comic-Con is more than a weekend event. It's a San Diego tradition. The Comic-Con Museum preserves the history of the convention, but that history was written by the people who helped build it. More than 50 years ago, a handful of young comic book fans had a big idea here in San Diego. One of them was Mike Towery. He helped organize some of the very first Comic-Cons. Today, he looks back on how a small gathering of friends grew into a global phenomenon.
So Mike, it's a really big year this year, 50th anniversary, but it started off really small and you were a part of that.
Yeah, there were just 6 of us the first time we got together, decided to put together the Comic-Con. I was directly involved in it in the first, for the first 3 Comic-Cons. I was chairman of the one in 1972 at age of 17, and then after that I took a sabbatical for a while. the one-day event, we were in the basement of the U.S. Grant Hotel, and the Grant was kind of run down in those days. It's really been fixed up now, but it was very small, and we only had 2 guests. And we had a little dealer's room, and tables were $5 for dealers, which, you know, is pretty amazing. And then in August we had our 3-day event, which is usually considered the first Comic-Con, and that was August 1st to 3rd in the Grant also. But even though we were a small new event, we had as guest Jack Kirby, who was the king of comics. He was called Jack King Kirby, and he was the creator or co-creator of Captain America, X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, all these great characters. And our other big guest was Ray Bradbury, who was the top science fiction author.
How does it make you feel to see how much it has grown?
It's a great feeling. I mean, we couldn't have imagined that it would get, you know, it would become this large, and that the things that we liked, which were very marginalized in those days, would take over the world and become so mainstream and popular now. So it's really gratifying to see that it's still going, and it's the biggest event of its kind in the country. A lot of events have tried to copy Comic-Con. Most of them are for-profit events. Comic-Con is still a non-profit event. Many people don't realize that. But it was we created it just because we love this stuff, and we love hanging out with our friends and talking to the people who create these things.
From a handful of comic book fans in the basement of the U.S. Grant Hotel to a global celebration of pop culture that takes over an entire city, Comic-Con's story is, at its heart, a San Diego story. And decades later, Comic-Con is still inspiring people to imagine what comes next. Thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy this year's Comic-Con.